Okay, I'm going to go through my process for keyword research. This is the basis for all of my search campaigns. The keywords that I discover and group into themes will then become my ad groups and the base of my search campaign. So first off, we will go into the Google Ads account and then go into Tools and Keyword Planner. We're looking for new keywords. This will also provide us with search volume. So we'll click on new keywords. So I am going to enter our landing page. It is possible to get suggestions from Google by just looking at the landing page, and sometimes that works great. However, if the landing page isn't as specific as you need to be, you can enter some keywords and themes to help guide this along, which I am going to do. The objective of this campaign is to drive registrations for tennis lessons. So I'm going to include some terms to help get this started. Each term ends with a comma to separate it from the other. You could also, actually, I have these listed out, so I think I could just copy and paste them. Perfect. So we're limited at 10. I think I had exactly 10, so this is good. We can go ahead and click get results. So from here, we can see the keywords that we provided, then some additional keywords along those same themes listed. I believe right now it's sorted kind of by importance and relevance, but we also have average monthly searches, which is an estimation based off last year's data. We can sort that way. We can also sort by competition. Competition meaning the amount of other advertisers bidding on these keywords. And we also get a range of expected cost of these keywords. So what I'm going to do is download this data into a Google Sheet. I'll go back and save the name and place it in a folder later. But for now, just to do this quickly, I will open the sheet as soon as that is ready. So here we have some additional columns that we're not going to need. So I'm just going to delete these columns. Also deleting currency. We know that we're working in dollars and we don't need to be specific there. Also, this change is not really important to me now. It is good to know. We can see if things are trending up or down over time and give us an indication of some keywords that may be a little more popular right now. But for our needs, this is pretty good. I also won't need this competition index. Volume is good to have in case we need to sort this. And I'm going to insert a couple more columns. One, I'm going to eventually group these keywords by theme, which will then become my ad group. I'm looking for max 10 to 15 keywords in an ad group. And then right here, I'm just going to have a column. If I choose to include it, I'll put a Y for yes. If I choose not to include it, I'll put an N for no, and then that will give me my list of negative keywords. Negative keywords I'm going to use to help refine my traffic and bring up my click-through rates. So we can just go through this. This is pretty broad for what we're working on youth tennis program, but it's kind of right in line with what we're looking for. So this is great. And I'm going to start, I'll probably refine this a little bit, but as I go, I'm going to get an idea of how I'm going to start grouping these keywords together. And the ad groups are going to have kind of a similar nomenclature based on the qualifier. So this, for example, we're going to say youth tennis program because I believe we're probably going to have a lot of keywords around the theme of tennis program, and then our qualifier being youth, and that will make more sense as we go along because now we have tennis lessons for 5-year-olds, which is also pretty good. And I would say we'll have youth, and then also this is like kids tennis lessons, and maybe we indicate the difference between lessons and program. So now we're starting to see an idea of our themes come together, and some of these keywords are going to start fitting into this. So here, for example, we're along the same lines of tennis lessons, but this keyword is now for teens, and we'll make the distinction here because the searching and users clicking through for teens may have different performance metrics than those looking for kids. Also, the other reason and qualifier for putting something in a different ad group is the need for either a different landing page or a different ad. In this case, we're going to be using the same landing page for all these keywords, but we can create a different ad, maybe something specifically for kids and something specifically for teens. Also, it may not be all that necessary, but for now, as we're building this out, we're kind of working off our own hypothesis as we go along and we get data and we optimize. Maybe we join all these together just for tennis lessons, not really making the distinction between teens and kids. But my hunch is telling me that the performance will be different, the leads will be different, and the clientele will be slightly different depending on if it's for kids or teens. So 12-year-old, that I'll put this, and the qualifier here is tennis lessons. So I'll include this in tennis lessons for teens. We know that the classes, when we look at the landing page, the classes for teens start at 12. So any keywords that indicate an age between 6 and 11 will group with kids. From 12 to 17 will group with teens. And oftentimes your product or your website will help guide you along how you're going to group these together, because we need things to be in sync with our product or service as well as what we find on the website. So same thing here. Now we're starting to see these groups come together. And here, this is going to be slightly different. The term is going to be youth, so not really a distinction in age. And if we're looking at this from the aspect of the user or the searcher, we just want to start to match how users are looking for these programs and get as specific as we can. And we may find that there's a difference between those looking for youth or teen, same as if someone's looking for a tennis program as compared to a tennis lesson, or we find out that there's really no distinction and we can start to group those together and simplify our campaign. So now we have classes. I would bet that there's not a lot of difference between someone searching for tennis lessons and tennis classes. However, like I said, we want to match and be as specific as possible. This is going to help with our quality scores if necessary. And I think it's best to build out and be very specific at first. And later on, if we need to narrow or consolidate things down, we can. So tennis lessons for teens near me. Near me is always going to be a great qualifier. And oftentimes we could just group that in with the same ad group as the teen tennis lessons, but for now, we're going to make the distinction because oftentimes in my experience, when someone indicates near me or a city or neighborhood, though that shows some extra intent, and those end up being higher quality and therefore more expensive keywords. And you want to be able to make that distinction so you can either adjust your bid or maybe adjust your ad copy, whatever the optimization necessary there. Um, so here we have youth beginner tennis lessons. So I'm just going to group this together in youth tennis lessons. We may see that there's a difference between beginner or advanced. I'm not going to get that specific now, but that could be a good optimization down the road if we need to make that distinction. So in that case, we would go back and we would break out the ad group of youth tennis lessons and youth tennis lessons for maybe beginners and advanced, and separate out with that qualifier. And when I say qualifier, I mean just an extra phrase or word on that keyword phrase. So I'll go through in a similar fashion until all of these keywords here, and there's not a ton, are grouped together, and then that's going to give me my ad groups, and I'll craft this a little bit to make sure that it all makes sense, that I have a, a decent amount of keywords in each ad group, probably 5 to 10 is preferable, and that I don't have an abundance of keywords, that I'm not getting too granular, and that I have a good amount of maybe 5 to 10 ad groups to start off with this campaign so that I know that I am being specific enough. So I will go through and finish that off, and we will pick this up. Okay, so I've gone through and classified all the keywords in my list. So we can see I've added almost everything that was here. It's not a giant list. Sometimes this list could be thousands of keywords long, and we would probably have a cutoff of average monthly searches where we wouldn't include. But all of these are relatively significant and relatable, although many of them are somewhat redundant, where the order of words are switched around a little bit. We'll include them anyway and let the best performer rise to the top, and then eventually Google will give us an indication that we have some redundant keywords, and we can pause them or get rid of them. But for now, we'll include everything that we have here. In some cases, I could notice that some of these were pretty redundant, so I just didn't include them. I don't know if the qualifier of summer really matters for this program because it's not specific to the summer. And there are some cases where I have included it. Again, that could be an optimization for down the road if an ad group needs to be broken out, or there's a specific program for the summer, then we can call that out. But for now, I'm just not including that. And there are some cases where I have some keywords. So I think, or I have some negative keywords. So I think this was a longer keyword that said adult tennis lessons, I believe, but I just shortened that to include the qualifier of adults that I'm going to exclude at the ad group level, not at the campaign level, because I don't know. It does look like on this website that adults can register. So I don't know if it's an absolute that we want to exclude all searches for adults, but I know specifically for these ad groups focused on youth and teens, we will exclude any indication of searches for adults or adult. So I'm going to put that at the ad group level, and that's why I've indicated here as opposed to a negative keyword at the campaign level. And same In this case, again, I shortened, I believe this said tennis lessons initially, but I just shortened it to tennis as an exact. And then if I don't already have it, it's going to be good to just include a negative for tennis lessons. And this being, we don't want to come up for searches that are too broad, because then we most likely won't get a high click-through rate, and we want to be as specific as possible. So if someone's looking for something very generic, and often with the way Google will populate as the criteria for matching with keywords gets a little more broader. We don't want to show up for someone just looking for tennis, or very generally tennis lessons. We want to make sure that they're indicating using our qualifiers of youth or teen or kid. So that's why we'll exclude that as well at the ad group level, because maybe at some point we want to appear for just regular tennis lessons, and if that's the case, then I won't exclude forever. And then we have some keywords down here below. These are the ideas that I put in based on our product, because I know that this is a subsidized program for free, and for kids specifically in the area. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of history or search volume for these terms, so they're really not going to do us any good. Maybe we see that change throughout the history of the campaign, and we start seeing people looking and searching for free after-school sports or free tennis lessons. But for now, Google is indicating that there's not much search activity there, so we won't include these. So for now, I'm going to sort these by the ad group. So here we have all of our negative keywords, which we can ignore until we build those out. And now we can get an idea of all of the ad groups that we have. So we can see kind of the cadence of how we're doing this. Tennis lessons is basically our primary theme. And then we have modifiers on the beginning and the end of that. And that's how we're going to group our ad group. So we have people searching for kids tennis lessons or teen tennis lessons, and then youth tennis lessons. And then there's variations of that term tennis lessons of camps, programs, clinics, and then clubs as well, lessons. And then we also have the indicator of and the qualifier of near me, which typically sees a higher click-through rate or a higher conversion rate. So for now, we'll break that out. Maybe that's not necessary, but in my experience, it's always been a better performing ad group, so I like to break that out. So from here, I'm going to separate out this list of ad groups and put them on a different sheet, so I can see how many ad groups that I have, and eliminate any duplication here, so I can get an idea of just how many ad groups that I'm dealing with, and then really see maybe there's some errors in the way that I've listed out the nomenclature, or maybe there's some redundancies, but I'm just going to clean up this data. So I'll come back after this data is a little bit refined. I went through and sorted and cleaned up some of this data, so all of the nomenclature is similar, and there's kind of a cadence to how these modifiers are working. Here I'm noticing one more mistake. I want to be consistent. If I use the plural or the singular, I want to be consistent with how I do it. So I'm just gonna go here anywhere in here where I've used teens. I want to replace it with teen just to stay consistent. 4 instances there. So I'm going to move this into a new sheet, and here I'll just do this again. For an example, I'm going to take all of these ad groups that I have labeled. I'm going to paste them here, and then I'm going to remove any duplication. So here I can see I now have 28 ad groups, which I think is overkill for our purposes. So I'm going to go back and clean this up one more time, and I'm going to group some things together. So I think the distinction between something like kids and child is not necessary. So I'm going to call all of these child. I don't think there's a necessary distinction from a user or an ad copy perspective that I need to differentiate between lessons, classes, or programs. So I'm going to call all of those lesson. I do think there's a good differentiator between youth, teen, and child. So I'm going to keep all of that. And I also think there's a good distinction between club and camp, and maybe we find that those aren't good performing because they're not so relevant to our service, and maybe we just pause those once we figure out how they perform. But I'm going to go back and clean that up one more time, and that should give us a better number of ad groups to deal with. And then also, by grouping all that together, we'll have a handful of keywords in each ad group that's going to give Google a better idea of the theme and the idea of the keywords that we're going for, as opposed to having just one keyword in each ad group, which is a practice that used to be done when we didn't rely on machine learning as much, but is an outdated practice. I've gone back and further refined the ad groups to be a little more concise and a little cleaner. So now we can see we have 15 total ad groups based on theme and the nomenclature that distinguishes between our different modifiers. This may end up being a little bit of overkill. I think this is a decent number of ad groups. We'll know once we start getting some data if we need to expand on these, or maybe even combine some ad groups together. If we have any ad group that's not getting a lot of activity, maybe low search volume, and it's very similar to another, then that would give us an indication to combine them together. But for now, I think this is a good place to start. And from that, we would conclude our keyword research. So we will take these keywords and these ad groups, and then we will start building out our campaign in the next video. But that is how I would go through keyword research to get the basis for my search campaigns.